Stage 1 of the UAE Tour Women, and today the riders faced 111 kilometres from Al Mirfa to Madinat Zayed, with a day for the sprinters on paper, an entirely flat profile and just 335 vertical metres. The first of 3 this week, but in fact these conditions are so often unpredictable. The wind has been a major factor here before, creating chaos, but today was a much calmer 17 kilometres an hour. This desert stage held 2 intermediate sprints after 64.5 kilometres and 86 kilometres respectively, with points 8, 5, 3 and 1 up for grabs at both. But that second sprint also awarding 3, 2 and 1 bonus seconds. There were points and bonus seconds on that finish line too, after things started on the Arabian coast and crossed the desert to reach today's conclusion. This opening stage offered the familiar sight of wide, straight roads punctuated by roundabouts, and Elisa Longo-Borghini came in with the number 1 on her back, having won last year's edition. Stage 1 saw her team, UAE Team ADQ, animating from the word go with a stellar lineup. Teams were ever attentive to the nature of this so often hectic race. We saw Andrea Casagrande of Vini Fantini be pink and Elisa De Valia of Top Girls Fassa Bortolo make a move to go clear in a 2-rider breakaway, getting around 45 seconds on the peloton. But as the teams really wound things up and started to string things out ahead of the first intermediate sprint of the day, they were caught and everything came back together at 53.7 kilometres remaining. It was FDJ United Suez that took this one all the way to the line, and that saw the maximum 8 points awarded to Juliette Berthet, followed by teammate Vittoria Guazzini. It was Pfeiffer Georgi of Picnic Postanel and Franzi Koch of FDJ that took the remaining places over that line. Now we saw an active and very communicative Marlin Reusser in attendance with Movistar after a stunning 2025 season in one of the strongest fields we've ever seen at the UAE Tour. At kilometre 85.3, that was when we saw the second intermediate sprint, and that was taken by Femke de Vries of Team Visma Lisa Bike, followed by Franzi Koch and Alison Jackson of Saint-Michel Preference Home Orbit 93. They pressed on, but to no avail at that point. Now, the hectic nature of today led to a couple of crashes in the peloton. And it was Noah Janssen of Liverlula Jayco that got caught out with that touch of wheels there and needed a bike change and lost quite some skin, unfortunately, with 22 kilometres to go. We saw a strong presence from Team Visma Lisa Bike and EF Education Oatly on a day where not only were sprinters protected, but GC leaders with an eye on staying out of trouble for that overall classification and that Jebel Hafid conclusion later on Sunday. As we came into the final kilometres, 1.4 kilometres to go, we were seeing some teams caught out, but it was UAE Team ADQ that ultimately led it out for Lara Gillespie, with Lisa Longo-Borghini doing such a long lead out. That was before Liverlula Jayco took to the front. We saw a lot of movement as expected, but it was really UAE that drove things all the way. Before we weren't quite sure where Lorena Wiebes, the favourite for today's sprint, actually was, and she seemed to be freelancing wheels and teams a little bit to find her way through. There were so many names in contention for this sprint at this point that even the team seemed to be switching lead outs and orders of the day, with Wiebes at this point looking to be boxed in. And UAE dominating with that train. Well, we suddenly saw her moving around. Was she going to get through? But Wiebes, doing what Wiebes does best with such a cool head, managed to come through on the side of the barrier, finding her way to yet another victory. Arms in the air and career professional victory, 119 for the SD Works Pro Time rider. Hugs all round. Another win for Lorena Wiebes Vibes celebrating with her team there, and you can just see the big fight there from the brilliant sprint entity that I'm so excited for this season in the form of Lara Gillespie. But it was arms in the air once again for Lorena Vibes. Now coming through the centre of the screen all the way with a big lunge to the line was Zoe Backstead of Canyon Strams under Crypto, sealing the deal to take third spot there. So confirmation of that stage 1 result. Lorena Vibes taking this top spot, followed by Lara Gillespie, and third was Zoe Backstead. It was Maggie Coles-Lister that took the 4th position behind there. What a fight and what an opening day we saw to the UAE Tour Women 2026. A familiar sight of cheers and celebrations for Team SD Works Pro Time. Big smiles there from Lorena Vibes, talking of which, here's confirmation of that general classification. Of course she is topping that after that performance on stage 1. Second is Lara Gillespie, third Zoe Backstead, and it's Femke de Vries that takes 4th, Franziska Koch in 5th there. We'll be back for stage 2 tomorrow and much more action. Join us then.